Hello and welcome to Medical Edge. My name is Todd Barnes. This program is produced as a partnership between the Mayo Clinic and the City of Thornton. We hope every episode provides you with valuable health information for you and your family.
To Roger Frisch, the violin is not just an instrument, it's part of him, an extension of his passion for music, beauty, and excellence. Roger's mastery of the violin has put him on the world stage. Few have reached this level of expertise. But not long ago, Roger noticed something wasn't quite right when he pulled the bow across the strings.
When I would draw my bow, I suddenly had a shake in my bow. Now, for most other professions, this would not be a concern. For being a violinist, where your career depends on the stability of your appendages, this was a great concern.
Roger has what's called essential tremor, a nervous system disorder that causes shaking. Concerned, he went to Mayo Clinic, where he met neurosurgeon Dr. Kendall Lee.
And the amount of tremor he has would be considered pretty mild, but not in the case of a concert violinist.
Dr. Lee and Roger agreed that deep brain stimulation, or DBS, was their best chance at stopping the tremor. It involved placing electrodes into Roger's brain. But there was a challenge to overcome that created a first-ever situation in an operating room. You see, because Roger's tremor was so small, it would be difficult for Dr. Lee and his team to tell if the electrodes they were implanting were in the best possible place to stop the tremor.
And so what we needed a violin in the operating room.
Kevin Bennett heads Mayo Clinic's Division of Engineering. His team worked with Dr. Lee's team to create a violin Roger could play while awake during surgery.
We built and designed a 3-axis accelerometer that we could attach to the bow so that as Mr. Frisch was playing, we could actually see a plot on a computer screen of the movement that really shouldn't be there.
During the procedure, Dr. Lee inserted electrodes into Roger's brain and moved them to the site where the tremor originated. Once there, electrodes fire electrical signals to hopefully stop the tremor. By measuring Roger's movements, the accelerometer told Dr. Lee if the electrodes were in the right spot. There was no guarantee it would work. Thankfully, it did work.
I thought this was a wonderful challenge to see if this technology could help in this sort of a unique situation.
I started playing right away the day I came home from Mayo. I was back playing with my colleagues with the Minnesota Orchestra 3 weeks later. Without the stimulator on, the tremor is quite pronounced.
You can see the difference. With the click of a controller, Roger can turn the electrodes on and off.
And that's as smooth of a bow as I can play right now.
But when it's on, Roger's mastery of the violin is absolutely clear.
I remain very, very thankful every day that I have had the opportunity to have had this surgery. And, I just do not take it for granted.
Back on the world stage to make music, beauty, and achieve excellence.
Other than that violent microsecond when the club head meets the little white ball, no one thinks of golf as a contact sport. Yet the twists, torques, and turf traumas encountered by gladiators of the greens can be jarring.
You hit a rock, a root, that's underneath the grass you don't see, something like that, or you're just a bad swing and you dig in.
Lifelong golfer Rick Turner says it's been years since an injury has kept him off the course. He focuses on good form and staying conditioned to keep it that way.
I play 4 or 5 times a week and I walk 18 holes.
If you haven't hit a golf ball for 6 months and suddenly you go out and start hitting 200 balls, then you are going to suffer the next morning.
Besides being a passionate golfer himself, Dr. Sanj Kekar is a hand specialist in Mayo Clinic's Department of Orthopedic Surgery. He says wrist and hand pain are fairly common, affecting about 10% of amateurs and 20% of professionals. The 3 main causes are overuse, poor mechanics, and trauma, often resulting in strained tendons or even fractures. If a golf outing does leave you with bothersome pain or stiffness, start by resting the achy joint.
Ice is good, especially in the acute stages, to take away the swelling. And then once that's settled down, after the first few days, heat works well just to sort of make that area less stiff.
Reducing wrist pain might be just the excuse you've been looking for to upgrade your clubs. The good doctor says advances in modern technology can make a noticeable difference.
Having graphite shafts, having cavity-backed clubs to take out the vibration of impact. Having a fatter grip may help them not squeeze the club too tight and hence alleviate any joint pains.
The doctor also advises pre-game stretching and professional lessons to establish solid mechanics. Sure, you may swing for show and putt for dough, but injury prevention will keep you in the game. For Mayo Clinic, I'm Dennis Doda.
Very good.
New fallen snow that hadn't been drifted,
To 88-year-old George Nelson,
and deep and steep. I just love that. Love to have it curl up in front of you.
skiing is not only a passion,
Just a wonderful sport.
it's a way of life.
We were infantry soldiers trained at high altitude, cold weather.
In World War II, George was part of the 10th Mountain Division, an elite group that endured intense fighting against German forces.
I was in the foxhole right up in front, and we had huge casualties.
But George made it through the war, he says, without so much as a scratch.
I learned to seriously pray. I know that. I've been praying ever since. And my prayers have been generally answered one way or another.
His prayers continued to be answered after the war when he, like many of his fellow soldiers, took their mountain skills and developed ski resorts in the U.S. George developed Lutsen in Minnesota.
Pure love of skiing, I guess.
The Nelson family skiing on Simba.
Time and life and family went on, and then recently George's prayers were answered once again in the form of life-saving treatment for a serious heart problem.
He had aortic stenosis, which is a severe narrowing of the aortic valve.
Mayo Clinic cardiologist Dr. Bernard Gersh was part of the team that took care of George.
We felt that he just wasn't suitable for an open surgical repair, that the risk would be just too high.
George had had 2 previous bypass surgeries, and they wanted to avoid open heart surgery again. So instead of an open operation, the surgical team, led by cardiac surgeon Dr. Rakesh Suri, performed a much less invasive procedure called a transcatheter aortic valve replacement, also called the TAVR or TAVR procedure.
We're able to offer a cutting-edge solution to be able to treat the blocked heart valve without opening his chest for a 3rd time.
The aortic valve opens to let blood flow out of the left pumping chamber of the heart to the rest of your body. Aortic stenosis means that the valve becomes stiff and doesn't work properly. During some procedures, Dr. Suri and his interventional cardiology colleagues guide a catheter through the femoral artery up to the aortic valve. But because George's femoral artery was not wide enough, they accessed the valve through a very small incision in the chest wall and then through the apex of the heart. Once the guide catheter was in place, the heart team deployed the new valve within the old one, restoring blood flow. Dr. Suri says he and his colleagues were pleased to be able to offer this procedure to George.
With our broad and deep bench of our heart team, be able to improve his quality of life. It was a solution that was uniquely Mayo.
Both Dr. Suri and Dr. Gersh know how important getting back on the slopes is to George. A man who survived intense fighting with the elite 10th Mountain Division in World War II, who then went on to build a life full of family and his love of skiing, who is now winning a battle for better heart health.
Very, very lucky.
Brooke Hayes was in her 20s when the hip pain started.
And so I stopped doing a lot of things.
Going up and down stairs hurt, walking hurt, no matter what she did, her hips hurt.
Then I was cutting out everything. That's not where I was supposed to be.
She is 70 pounds and had severe deformities affecting her hips with arthritis at a very young age.
Mayo Clinic orthopedic surgeon Dr. Christopher Beauchamp says surgery to fix her hips would be complicated. Standard hip replacement implants wouldn't work. She needed a custom-designed surgery and custom-designed implants.
And you press print and a three-dimensional model is made.
This is a printing press that takes information from a CT scan and layer by layer prints out a three-dimensional model of the patient's hip joint.
We are now able to take those models and actually do the planned surgical procedure on the patient's model first.
A practice run that increases accuracy during the real procedure. Then they send the model of the patient's joint to a manufacturer who makes custom-designed implants.
It's taking very complex reconstructive surgical procedures to a level that it's actually quite a lot easier to do once we have a reconstructive plan that's firmly in place preoperatively.
I just couldn't wait to heal up so I could go do the things that I've been wanting to do for the last several years.
Back at life thanks to three-dimensional printing technology. For Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Vivian Williams.
That's all for this episode of Medical Edge. If you're interested in learning more about any of the stories featured on this program, you can find additional resources by visiting our website and following the link to the Mayo Clinic. Thanks for watching, and be sure to watch the next episode of Medical Edge from the City of Thornton.